Hello, Dr. Venus. How you doing?
Hello, Dr. Jackson. I am good.
Good. Excellent. It's good to talk to you today, and I'm so excited for the Three Docs podcast today because we are talking about the book Scarcity and so much to talk about. Uh, I didn't realize how much of my thinking is based on scarcity and how much of my misplanning is is based on in slack time I take a little bit too long to do things, and then I put things off, and all of a sudden the deadline's on me and I get a little
We
stressed.
have talked about that many, many times. We have discussed that so many times.
Absolutely. I mean, most teachers, if you talk to them about what they need in the classroom, is more time.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to think I need more time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
truth, that's totally
Time
true.
is a scarcity.
But the deal is, we all have 24 hours.
Yeah.
Even the busiest person or the slowest person or the pickiest person, whomever we're talking about, 24 hours. We all have 24 hours. So for me, scarcity of time is what I battle against. That's my biggest battle, because I want to do everything
Yeah.
all the time,
And
all at
well,
once.
sometimes 24 hours is not enough. You can
Yeah,
cram only so much into it. And then what happens to you is what's pointed out in the book is you don't focus on the future. You focus on what's imminently important, and you just lose your ability to concentrate on what do you need to do tomorrow. How do you
right.
get ready for tomorrow?
Or we get into the trap that says borrow from tomorrow. And we'll get
Yes,
into a lot of that. That
um,
was what was pretty eye-opening for me when I
yes,
read this book. So you and I and Dr. Shepard started this whole conversation when we came across a list from Daniel Pink of the 21 books that changed his life. And so we thought, well, let's read these and then talk about them and see if they change our lives too. And that's how this whole conversation got started. And I'm so glad we did this. We're actually already on episode 17, which is
almost there,
amazing.
almost there.
Yes.
Yes,
So we've read 17 books. Granted, they were not all 1 week per book. However, I never thought I'd read 17 books.
yeah, same here. I mean, it actually, since we started that, it's an amazing short period of time that we read all these books. Like Daniel Pink says, most people uh, don't read 4 books a year, and we have
Yeah,
read now, and we added one of our own in here, so
mhm,
we read 17 books in just a few months,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we didn't start that at the beginning of the year. So this is amazing.
I think so too, and it's been really enjoyable too. And I think for the last episode, we need to do something like invite the authors or something big, and if
Yes.
someone's watching and they have a suggestion of what we could do to celebrate finishing these list of, it will
Mhm.
be 22 books. Um, what should we do to celebrate? So I hope that we have some comments and some ideas, and we can talk about what we should do. But mm, let's get to
We're
it.
not
All right.
there yet. Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. um Scarcity by Senthil Mullane Nathan and Eldar Shafir is one of the books. And Daniel Pink had some to say about it. And what did you find?
Okay, so according to Daniel, Pink, he just restates how much we have of something affects decision making. When we have less of anything, we make bad decisions because scarcity imposes a mental tax on our ability to make good decisions. We wrongfully attribute poor decision making to character flaws when, in fact, in similar situations, we would all make those decisions, those poor decisions. This book made Daniel Pink more empathetic to the lives of others that others lead, and he wishes that every policymaker reads it. However, having stated that, this is only a small part of the book. As I read on in it, scarcity can also have positive effects. It's not only having negative effects. And there's a lot that comes to play on how you deal with it. So that ties into other books that we read. How do you deal with adversity?
Mhm.
What you make of what you don't have, or what you make of what you need?
So
How
are you saying that scarcity in some contexts people benefit from?
Yes, yes. They do, and I have it. I'll find it, and I have it in
Okay.
my notes. So,
Okay.
and what stood out to me is, of course, slack time. That not just time, but having slack of anything.
Mm.
We discussed that so many times, so I wanted to bring that out. Of course, in my notes is so slack. Centil says it's a buffer reserve of resources, whether that's money, time, um, anything that acts as a cushion and prevents minor setbacks from triggering the scarcity mindset. So
Mm.
having extra money in savings allows a well-off person to easily cover an unexpected car repair without it consuming their mental focus. Whereas to somebody who doesn't have that extra money in the bank, major car repair can throw their whole life out of balance. So,
Right. Right.
and they become focused on what right now, how can I patch this, and it's not just a car repair. How, if I don't have money in the bank and I have to pay the rent, and then something else comes up,
Mhm.
what should have priority, and
Yeah.
it becomes a vicious cycle. So,
Right.
and
Yep.
we say that all the time when we talk about time. Like if I have, we discussed that, and it happened now as we're
Yeah.
preparing for this. If you have more time to deal with something, you keep putting it off until you have no more time, instead of making wise choices of your time. In the
Right.
same way, like if I have a vacation and I have some projects to do, why should I do this today if I can
Yeah.
do it tomorrow? And in
Yeah.
the end, it doesn't get done at all.
Right. Right.
Whereas,
Like when teachers extend the deadline of an
yes,
assignment, many times they'll have more students not do the work
mhm,
than the ones that do, because
yeah,
on the
yeah,
one hand, they need the deadline, as you were saying, it makes you work harder.
yeah.
And on the other hand, if you extend the deadline, then there's no pressure
It's no,
to get yourself organized and do your work.
and the authors bring that out very well in one of their studies with college students, the ones that had 3 weeks to complete a project. They were so pressed for time at the end of the 3 weeks because they haven't done anything in the entire 3 weeks. And then the other group, where they made a deadline for each week, they did a whole lot better
Yeah.
with their
Yeah.
deadlines because they knew something was due at the end of each week and they got it done.
Right. So setting deadlines for ourselves, midpoints or
Yes,
uh, moments when you can check yourself and make sure you're moving toward your goal. Even little steps are very helpful.
are very helpful. Yes. Okay, and here it is. Deadlines are effective because they create scarcity and focus the mind. And this is what I mean with positive effect of scarcity. It can focus your mind on what's important. When
Mhm.
time is short, you get more out of it, be it work or pleasure. This is called a focus dividend, the positive outcome of scarcity capturing the mind.
Right. So, um, one of the studies, there were people that had they had a group of people that had many resources, and they had a group of people that had limited resources. And then they went to the store, and then as the people were leaving the store, the researchers would talk to them, and then they were allowed to look at the receipt. And they said, "Well, how much did you pay for eggs at this trip?" And the people with plenty resources said, "Oh, I don't know. I paid for eggs. That's all I know." And but the people who had limited resources knows that they paid $4.95 for the eggs, or X amount of dollars for that. So sometimes the limited resources can force you to be a little more judicious with the funds that you do have.
Yeah, and it's easy when you have plenty to buy things that you really don't need. You just grab them because you see them. Whereas if
Oh
you
yeah,
have resources, you make a list and you buy only what you need.
right. What was the do you remember the pantry? The items
Yeah,
in,
yeah, we
what
have
was that
items.
term?
Yeah. Oh
Do
gosh.
you remember the term? That was so funny. It just cracked me up because I was thinking about my own pantry, and I thought, there are things in there
Yeah,
that might be expired because
you might.
I,
Yeah, you
I
buy
bought them.
them
I
and you
thought,
never
yeah,
use them. Yeah. Let me see if I have that in there.
we
Uh,
need to put that in the comments.
yeah,
So to ask people if they have come across anything in their pantry that's out
yeah.
of
It's
date. And
packing and slack, but that's more of that's a suitcase
yeah,
example.
suitcases. Well, I
So
can talk to that. I've since we've gone on some trips, I've gotten pretty good at packing and knowing exactly what I'm going to wear. And then mentally, I set each day, and I know, if we're going on a cruise or a driving trip or whatever, I know that I'm not going to wear 7 different outfits in the day. So I only pack the usual, and just like I would be at home, and then just kind of think about the weather and throw an umbrella in there if I'm going to a rainy place. But definitely with practice, you can get better at packing. That's for sure.
yeah, and the size of the suitcase matters. So if you have
Right.
a big
Oh,
suitcase, you stuff more in than you need. You have a little suitcase, you're more pay more attention to how you pack.
absolutely.
So
That's right. Okay, so let's see. We'll have to come back to the pantry idea. I'll put that in the notes afterward
okay.
because that term was just cracked me up. Okay, so in tying the scarcity traps that we come, whether for time or money or energy or resources, we see that the reasons they get us is interconnected. So stretching back to the core scarcity mindset, when you get to the point where you think, "Oh my gosh, I don't have enough of blah," you know, you get you tunneled. And so all you can see is the end and the deadline. And you kind of lose some efficiency there. So it leads us to borrow from the future. Okay, so let's say I need $50 more to make my rent this month. So I see over here where I can go get a payday loan, and it's I borrow the $50, and they're going to charge me, I don't know, 25, 20, 40, let's say $20 interest. I don't know. I mean, I've never done it, so I don't know what
Yeah,
but I know it's
yeah,
a crazy amount of interest. And so I
yeah.
think, oh, it doesn't matter what the interest is. Next week I'll make it up. And so as I'm tunneling, I think, "Phew, that is over with. That stress is over with. I have rent. I made my rent. Everything's good." And so then
And it's interesting how he makes a good case for how some thinking that would be appropriate here when you borrow high interest from high interest loans, how things that you should consider don't make it into the tunnel. They're outside the tunnel.
right,
So you never even consider that.
right,
You're paying back twice as much as if
right.
then
Yeah, like you may have a gift card that
yeah,
someone gave you for your birthday or something like that, and you think, "Oh, I could have cashed that and used that," but it's not in the tunnel, right? So
yeah,
the only thing I could think of was
exactly,
I've got to
yeah.
get that payday loan and get to that shop, but then you're locked in and you owe the $50, but you also owe the interest on it.
Hmm.
So the scarcity trap becomes complicated affair, and it's a patchwork of delayed commitments. Sometimes we put things off and then they come due, and costly short-term solutions. So you never really get ahead. And so they need to be constantly revisited and revised, your solutions. So it's
Yeah.
only a
Although,
temporary fix.
and I'm glad you brought out these points, because what I feel is missing in the discussion in this book, and they did a lot of great research, and it's all true. However, I want to tie this back and pedal back to the book we read about loose and tight cultures.
Mm,
I come from a culture where borrowing was not on the horizon. You lived within your means, where, no matter how scarce they were. And,
mhm,
and believe me, they were scarce for me at some point in my life. I managed to live within my means. I did not borrow, and I
mhm.
dug myself out of it. So it wasn't my mindset was not, oh, I can just take out a loan and then fall into that trap. Now I need another loan to pay off this loan because I
Yeah,
can't make it again. And then I get another loan, as he pointed out in his study. That's
yeah,
what people, some people do. They pay off one loan with another one, and they just never get out of that vicious
yeah,
cycle.
yeah,
However, your background and your culture and where in this world you grow up does play a part in it, And I'm not
mhm,
saying, there's a certain poverty line where it's difficult, but I did, I did have an episode in my life where
mhm.
I didn't have a lot of bills, but I paid them and was left with nothing. And I
Yeah,
made it through the months to the next payday on nothing. I
yeah,
didn't borrow, I didn't go in debt. Because that's how I grew up.
yeah. No,
Whereas,
but Dr. Venus, and you were talking about an environment here. I think environment has a lot to do because you probably learned how to get by and how to
yes,
do
it
with
does.
nothing
Yeah.
because the people around you taught you how to do that. So,
Hmm.
you looked at their example and you realized, oh, maybe I could mow a lawn or something on the weekend. That's one thing that
Hmm.
I wish was brought out more in the book is what can people do? They wait a long time before
Yeah.
they talk about solutions,
Yeah,
and
and the
it would be helpful.
mindset, I want to bring out here the mindset. When I first heard here that to establish credit, you got to go into debt. That's how you establish credit. I was
Yeah,
blown away. I go,
it does.
what?
Does that make sense? Really?
That does not make sense. But people here are
Yeah,
taught that you go into debt, and then, however, you pay your debt off. If you manage to pay it off, then you have good credit. That's how
yeah,
you establish good credit here. Well,
yeah,
that's to begin with a trap that many people can't master.
yeah,
That to me is a wrong approach, and it's not only um, a different mindset, but you also have to deal with different cultures.
Yeah.
When you talk about poverty in the world and not getting out of that vicious cycle of never getting ahead, there's culture where religion won't allow you to get better, because that's
Mhm.
how we live, and that's what our
Mm.
faith demands, and
Mm.
so that all plays a part, and I think that did not come out in this book.
Yeah. Yeah. There's um
Like having
really
10 kids when you can't afford one. How much
right.
sense does that make?
Yeah. There's got to be some, I don't know, a mentor, somebody
Yeah,
who says, maybe before you have that fifth child, you could
yeah,
make sure that the four you have clothes and food.
yeah,
Um, but uh, for some, like, I think what you're saying is that in some cultures, the wealth of family and the wealth of
it's
all
in
the
the
children
kids.
is your
Yeah,
is your
it's
wealth.
in the
So
kids. Yeah,
it's definitely some different mindset and culture and something to think
mhm,
about before we
yeah,
jump into commitments like that, because that's at least, well, it's a lifetime commitment in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
And so
It is. Yeah,
uh,
and yeah, and some of it is nowadays artificially, and he mentions that he does the author do a good point there. So then some of the bad situations are created by providing too much help,
yeah,
by trying to help, um, and then creating the opposite effect. Why should I go to work if I get more money living on welfare? Um, you know, um,
hmm,
that's something we have artificially created, and need to deal with it, because it
yeah,
doesn't. And he says it's not eliminating the problem.
yeah, it
It's
just
the
is.
elephant in the room.
You survive for one more day, but what about next week? you
Yeah,
know Another thing that I wanted to mention was the concept of bandwidth.
yeah,
And I really like that's we're so digital now. We understand, when you have low bandwidth, you have a very fragmented screen, so our lives get kind of pixelated. And
yeah,
you need bandwidth, which is basically physical and mental ability to think outside of the tunnel and look for long-term resources and be a little disciplined to set some time aside. And if you want to swim the English Channel, then you need to get out there in the pool and do your laps little by little every day, or whatever your goal is. The bandwidth that you use to think and plan helps you resist the temptation and persist on your goals. And okay, some people lack slack. So what the slack is the empty space. For you, we're talking about the suitcase. So if you have a
mhm,
large suitcase and I put 5 pairs of shorts and 5 t-shirts and 5 socks, and I'm going to have space around there, which is slack. So with whatever responsibilities we have, things that are not called for, that's our slack time. That's our mental slack time, our energy, our just time to sit and look at the sunrise and just be calm, and kind of recharge that way too. That's all capacity. That's building your capacity. Well, when you have a shock, when there is a shock to your system and someone comes into your office and says, oh yeah, that 20-page report is due tomorrow. Uh, that's a shock to your system, and you think, oh no, I need to. For the next 3 days, I'm staying up 24 hours, and I'm going to do my best work. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that report.
good luck.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have, but if you had some slack time, you go, okay, well, I know I have this responsibility, but I have a couple of about 4 hours this evening that I could really get close to finishing this. And then maybe the next day, oh yeah, I've got 4 hours in the evening. So when you have that built-in slack time, you have energy and capacity and bandwidth to absorb the shocks.
Yeah, and it shows you that there's a positive and negative with both ways, because if you do have that slack time, the negative outcome could be that you don't do anything until it's too late. But the positive outcome is also that you are able to deal with it. You're
Mhm.
able to make it.
Yeah. Yeah, the slack to me is a resource. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a stored energy. So
yeah,
you can either use it to recharge or you can use it when or save it for those unforeseen circumstances that pop
yeah.
up
It's definitely better
or
to have a
finance.
cushion than not to.
Yeah. And what really was amazing to me is that they did a lot of research in India and they
Hmm.
talked about shopkeepers who are only earning
Yeah,
$2 a day.
yeah,
But that for them was their abundance. That was it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
some could actually build and get out of debt just on what they're making because of, the prices and the things in their culture. If they set aside a little bit every
Mm,
day,
yeah,
um, then and some of the workers by the end of the month could have gotten themselves out of debt, which is just kind of on $2 a day. Of course, their debt was
yeah. Well,
the
and the
ratio there.
interesting part was that when they tried to help them by
Mm,
get by paying them out of debt, that they fell right back into it, and that's what I mean with that way of life seemed to be so ingrained in them that
yeah.
I just take a loan and it gets me to the harvest and
Mhm.
until I sell all my goods and then I'm even and then I borrow again. So the focus on getting out of debt wasn't really there,
Yeah. Well,
because
they were just focused on each day.
yeah,
So then when someone got rid of their debt for them, it really didn't change their life
it
much at
didn't.
all
Yeah, yeah.
because they were still going to work and
Exactly.
getting the
And that
vegetables for the
happens
day.
in our culture nowadays when the government takes over everything, and you're not responsible really for thinking, how do I make it? What do I need to do
Yeah.
to to uh, to not be in debt or
Yeah.
that we're helping people. Well, it's called the social system, and we've seen that break down in so
Mhm.
many countries where it just doesn't work. You
Yeah, people need to look up out of the tunnel and
yeah.
see what other resources and what other skills they could build, or what other
Mhm.
revenue streams they could make, or um, different things they could do to help them rise out of that tunnel they're building.
Exactly. And, building on other books that we read, that you're more proud of something that you achieve with your own effort and with your own hard work than just being handed something for
Yeah,
free.
yeah,
Freebies are not being appreciated as
yeah,
much
right.
as something that you work hard at.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I remember the first item that I sewed on a real sewing machine when I was in
Hmm.
middle school. I was just in home ec class. We made a book bag, but I was so proud of that thing because I worked really hard. It took me weeks to make that thing, but I was so proud of making something, and I actually used it at school. It was something I looked forward um, to make, and then if someone would have just bought me one and given me a book bag, which my parents did, um, in years following that, I wasn't as proud as the one I made.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I kind of cheated on this slide. It's supposed to be all connection to other texts, but there was one thing. You see, I wanted this book to get to the root of the problem, to get to a solution, and or at least to state the problem succinctly. And so, scarcity traps. Those are particularly poignant because there's a feeling that with just one infusion, if I could just get that $50, or if I could just have a day off in the middle of the week, or a Friday off or something, I could get rid of debt, or I could break free of the cycle. I could have the time. If only I had a bit more time, uh, bemoans the person who is perpetually behind. I could get things done. And I know I fell into that trap many, many times, you know. Uh, but I found a connection with Grit by Angela Duckworth, and where she talked about just moving forward, finding and sticking to your goals, and uh, finding ways to get things done. And I
Yeah.
believe that was also that was the sports gene. But in the sports gene, the author talked about finding your niche. Find what you need to do to make success, and you might need to change your goal. And so that kind of reminded me, but also thinking in bets, not to get all emotional, you know, that it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
emotion that really is the downfall of many people if things don't go your way. They just get emotional about it and they can't think their way out of all the
Mhm.
frayed nerve endings. And yeah, I've broken all these rules. I am not a good example of any of this because I've been all emotional if I get a deadline, or if something doesn't go my way, or if the live streaming is not working, my heart starts racing, and I get a little fragmented and forget everything around me until I can fix the problem, or at
Well,
least try.
it's if there's one thing that all this reading has helped me with, is to not make excuses for things that don't go my way, or things that happen to me.
Yeah,
It is a mindset, and the mindset was one perfect book
mhm,
in showing you that uh, you are the only one who can fix that. You need
right,
to don't ask, don't look to others for help. You need to overcome and move on and make the best of it, and see what your end goal is.
right. That's right. That tell yourself that you're responsible for what you can do, and then make yourself do it.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
And I think that will help. That really does help, and realize the world is not going to end if things don't necessarily go your way. Yeah.
exactly. Take charge.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, you know what? We didn't talk about what we're
Our
going to
next book.
read this next week.
Yeah. Are we off the offline?
No, not yet.
No?
We're
Okay.
live. So,
So,
because we have to say I've got our
yes.
books. Okay.
So let's
Um,
see what's
How
next.
about money? How about Moneyball, the sports and economics,
Okay.
baseball, about baseball? I
Sounds
think
good
that would
to
be
me.
fun. Yes. All right. And that's a very popular book. And I hope that our viewers will do a little reading, or a little skimming, or a little AI summarizing. Since I found out on the news this last week that people aren't required to read books at school anymore, or
Yes.
maybe just only one novel,
Hmm.
which
Yeah.
is kind of
Which
sad. It
is,
made
of
me real
course,
sad.
bemoaned by every English teacher, because reading is what helps you spell, what helps you be a better uh, author yourself. If you have to
Mhm.
write an essay, reading
Yeah.
provides knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Moneyball for next week. Thank you again, Dr. Venus. I really
You.
appreciate you. And it'll be after Christmas, but before New Year's next time we talk. So,
Okay, wonderful.
so
Bye
I hope
bye.
to see you